Everybody, welcome back to the Chasing Psychological Safety video series. As you can see, this week it's just me. Unfortunately, Dwayna and members of her family have been struck down with the dreaded COVID. All are well, but she can't be here this week. This week, I'm here to talk to you about engagement, a topic we've talked about millions of times before, but this week it's a little bit different. This week, we're talking about active disengagement, the dark side of engagement. There's been some recent statistics and numbers coming out of Gallup, which we really wanted to talk to you about. And we think it's important to also then talk about what that looks like and what you can do about it, which is what we're always trying to give you in these videos, some practical tips and tools as to how you can recognize something and how you can do something about it. But what about this active disengagement? So a recent Gallup poll that came out, some statistics tell us that 80% of people, 80% are not engaged or are, more importantly, actively disengaged at work. That in and of itself is mind-blowing, but further to that, there's a cost to this. The lack of engagement costs the global economy $8.1 trillion US annually, nearly 10% of GDP in lost productivity. That's pretty terrifying when you think about just what we could achieve if we were able to turn that around. If we were able to, what are we losing by not having people actively engaged, by having people actively disengaged in our organizations? What are we losing with regards to the culture, with regards to the health of our teams? What are we losing with regards to productivity and performance? We could almost have half the number of people working for us. As long as they were all fully engaged, we'd be as productive, if not more productive and more successful. But what we really want to do is turn people into a highly engaged, actively engaged workforce. We don't have all the numbers yet, but what we do know is at the moment that active disengagement is costing us money and it's costing us people. And what we also know is that psychological safety will make the difference for us from the perspective of that engagement. So first of all, how do we recognize it? How do we see it in the teams around us, in the people around us? All sorts of things. We've mentioned some of them in our article yesterday. Cameras off, silence, not arguing, a lack of dissent can absolutely be a sign of apathy, active disengagement, not being bothered to question the status quo or question the ideas and the direction that a business is taking because they've just lost all sense of purpose and engagement with the team, with the organization, with the work that they're doing. Not sharing, not saying, I need help, I'm struggling, I've got this thing going on outside of work at the moment that's really making life difficult for me. There's all sorts of ways in which we start to see people being actively disengaged, and we need to really, particularly now, with the great resignation and pandemic flux affecting all of us in the workplace, being or have a heightened awareness and be looking and be vigilantly looking around us for the signs of active disengagement. As you know, for us, the definition of engagement is very different to the kind of classic traditional definition of engagement with regards to questions that you ask in surveys around NPS scores and would you recommend our business on to other people. Our definition of engagement and people being actively engaged is when they have an emotional bond between each other in a team, and that connection really, really drives people wanting to have collective goals and work together and have great performance because they've got that connection that means they need and want to be interdependent in the team. So we've talked about the cost of active disengagement. We've talked about what it might look like, but now what can we do about it? As we always say, come and see us. You know, we are a psychological safety software house and we've got a tool that can really help you to understand, measure and improve psychological safety. But also, if you cannot do that, if you're not in a position to do that, or you already have another tool that you're using, just make sure that apart from that vigilance that I just talked about, that you don't stay silent. If you see active disengagement, do something about it. Speak up yourself. on someone's behalf, to another leader, to a peer, to whomever can help with regards to getting that sense of engagement back in the team and back in particular individuals in the team and in the organization. Never stay silent. Never, if you're seeing people, processes and policies being pushed out into the organization, particularly around, for example, remote working now that you know are going to make people's lives worse, don't stay silent. Have a voice on those topics. And further to that, think about finding a way to start brainstorming and coming up with as many different ideas as possible for recreating a sense of engagement in the workplace and bringing people, rather than facing outwards, to face back inwards towards the team and the purpose and the work that you are doing, and more importantly, to each other. Focusing on psychological safety and the many different ways in which you can build psychological safety in your team will turn this around. It'll start to turn the tide of active disengagement into a tide of active engagement. So thank you for listening. As always, come and see us if you want to talk about psychological safety software. If you cannot, please do this work manually in your organizations. All we really want is for people to be building and creating stronger psychological safety in the teams. Thanks. Bye.